Hello, very and welcome to Progress Junior Golf with Live Sport Now and the England Golf Young Ambassadors. My name's Steve Jackson, and this is Ian Waterhouse.
Hello, Steve Jackson. How are you? Episode 31. Can you believe it? I can't believe we've made it this number of episodes. I can't believe people still watch after all this time.
I can't believe we're still talking to each other after all this time. So yes, we are.
That says more about your opinion of me than anything else, I think.
Yes. Well, yeah. I'll say no more. Right, now, as you mentioned there, now this is show episode number 13. This is a podcast all about junior golf. It's about the next generation of golfers. It's about getting more boys and girls playing the game of golf. Show number 31, and our subject this evening is giving juniors a voice in committees. And we all love a committee meeting, don't we? You know.
Oh God, are we just?
Yes, a group of people sitting around for hours, arguing about the smallest details. And then at the end of it all, they agree to sit down for another committee meeting to discuss it all again.
What colour ties should we wear this year?
Absolutely.
My word.
Yes. Now, perhaps we are being a little bit harsh there, but the key point here is that committees are needed, and in particular with regard to junior golf, where the personnel does tend to change quite often. But to be successful, any committee needs to be given all the options to assess before making any kind of decision. Perhaps not all the options, but definitely not just one opinion. And with regards to the future of the game, the people who most affected by any of these decisions, and I would argue in the majority of cases, don't have a voice. And I'm of course referring here to juniors themselves, don't have a voice in these committees. So let's address that subject this evening and tonight, because we're going to hear from three England Golf Young Ambassadors who have got a voice. We've got Tom Ford and Zara Wartnaby, who will be joining us live in the studio. And I also did a pre-recorded interview with Emily Horsted as well. So we're going to hear lots of things about juniors, lots of things about committees, and importantly, giving those juniors a voice. I mean, we do this on the podcast, don't we? And we give juniors a voice, we give them the opportunity to get out there. But also, we want to actually talk specifically about how they can give it a voice, but also be listened to as well in that environment. Because, you know, I mean, we joke about it, but we have all been in those committee meetings whereby, you know, it can be a little bit boring. It can just go on and.
I don't, Steve. I don't do committee meetings. It's basically it's my word, guys. What I do.
You are the committee, aren't you? No.
I look. One thing we also do on this podcast is we get some proper guests on, don't we? It's great to have Zara and Tom with us, and of course Emily, who's been a regular on the show. As well, it's great to have them on. Steve, can I just do a little bit of good housekeeping for everybody? Actually, if you do at any point want to have your say, the live chat is now open at Live Sport Now on YouTube. Please make sure you head over there. There's a link in the body of this broadcast wherever you're watching it. Give it a click. It'll take you straight through to the live chat. Just comment. That's all you got to do. And if you keep it clean, we can show it on screen. And you better keep it clean because it's a junior golf podcast. So there we go. Another thing as well, if you do want to find out more about Progress Junior Golf, two options for you actually. You can click the link in the body of this broadcast, take you straight through to Steve's website. It's a bit of a goldmine for junior golf. All sorts of stuff, isn't there? There's paraphernalia on there, there's dates, there's all sorts of stuff. If you want to know what junior tournament's coming up, that's the place to do it. Or get your phone out right now and scan that QR code. Pop, like that, and it'll take you straight through to the website. I'll leave it on a little bit longer. Now, Steve, we like to do a question of the podcast whilst I'm on a bit of a roll, because it's difficult to get you to stop talking normally, so I'm going to take over now for a little bit. I have literally, this morning, 3 hours ago, returned from France, okay? And a nice few days over in France. What I want to know is, what is your favourite country to play golf in? It's that simple. What is your favourite country to play golf in? Is it England? Fair enough. Is it Scotland? Is it Ireland? Is it somewhere else? Is it the USA, America, or is it somewhere else? As crazy as, doesn't really matter. Comment below. We can see. I want to know where your favourite place to play golf is. Steve, back to you.
No, I know you have to answer the question first of all. I want to know what your favourite place to play golf is.
I would say my favourite place is probably Scotland.
Yeah. Oh, very original. Yes. Okay, fair enough.
You can't go. You can't say.
No, to be fair,
you can say something else, but
yes. Well, I
you're
will.
wrong.
I'll say.
You're wrong if you do say something else,
okay,
but you can say something else.
Ireland's the place I want to go, kind of thing. I love playing golf in Ireland. Always rains. I couldn't care less. Still enjoy it when I'm out there. You see, that would be my favourite place to play golf in. Perhaps not this time of the year, mind you, because it might be a little bit cold over there. there as well as Red.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to change mine to Mauritius. I've never played golf there, but I've got a feeling I'd like it a lot.
Well, I can say I have, and it is very nice.
There we go.
Yeah, I would recommend it.
Anywhere
Yes.
hot, actually. So,
Yes.
sorry, Scotland, you've been relegated.
Right, first things first, then let's do the latest golf news then. Where should we start? Now, I did have a quick chat with Tom and Zara off air, and they said that they're more than happy for us to go on with this news for hours and hours. They're willing to wait. They're going to stay up quite late because we're going to do a long news section here because we're going to talk about the Sunningdale Foursomes. Now, we gave it the big build-up last week or a couple of weeks ago. Plenty of juniors involved. Lots of junior winners in many years, including last year. So what happened this year then? Ian, I'm going to give you loads of time here. Give us the big build-up here. Tell us what happened then. You've got the floor is yours. Carry on.
Well, for the second year running, we managed to secure a broadcast deal with Sunningdale Foursomes to broadcast the 89th Sunningdale Foursomes, just like we did for the 88th Sunningdale Foursomes, which was an overwhelming success. So they had us back to cover the 89th Sunningdale Foursomes live, and we're going to do the semi-final and final. Of course, completely live, free to air for people to tune in and watch. We arrived on Tuesday, day one, lovely day, a little bit cold, but you expect that, don't you? In fact, Steve and I, we both sat down, we spoke to Charlie Hull, we spoke to Ryan Evans, we spoke to a number of different players, didn't we? Oliver Caton, of course, we know very well as well. And it was all looking quite rosy, wasn't it? Until 24 hours later, and the weather decided to play its part, and unfortunately, the Sunningdale Foursomes, the 89th Sunningdale Foursomes, was cancelled. So what a shame that is, but I can assure you we will be back for the 90th edition of the Sunningdale Foursomes. I have spoken to Christian Foreman, Director of Golf at Sunningdale, and they would like us to come back and broadcast live the semi-final and final in 2024. So that's what happened. It was a washout, I'm afraid. Sorry everyone. It was a great day on day one. But that's as good as it got, unfortunately. But a huge thank you, by the way, to Sunningdale for sort of looking after us and everything. And I must say, a hell of a lot of work goes into that. Do you know, it's not. This happens in sport, unfortunately. I'm involved in a few other sports, and it happens. It happens more than I'd like it to happen, but it does. But a lot of work goes into preparation for an event like that, from not just the golf clubs, but from our side on the broadcast side of things as well. And then, of course, the whole thing just gets washed out. But that is sport. That is the risk we take. And it happened. So there we go.
So our 20-minute news section then, talking about the Sunningdale Foursomes, has been ditched then, has it? Is that correct?
No, we can talk about it. So what happened is there's no winner. So congratulations, congratulations to Lottie Woad and Rachel Gawley, because they are still the defending champions.
No, because I got a text message from Ryan Evans to say that he is the joint winner of the 2023 Sunningdale Foursomes, because at the end of the day, no one did this year.
How on earth has he managed to claim that one?
To be fair to him, Charlie Hill, they did get through their first round match. I think they won 6-5. So they were one of the better winners, kind of thing, from that first round. So they can kind of half claim to say that they were.
Yeah, but you can't claim you've won the Masters. You can't say you've won the Masters just because you led the leaderboard after day one, can you?
Yes,
you know?
I know. Right, let's find some news then. So bear in mind that it's been cut short already. So there has been some competitions. Overseas then, the Spanish Amateur Championship. This obviously is a men's amateur championship and the women's amateur championship, but juniors play a big part in it. And once again, right at the top of the leaderboard again, British boys champion Albert Hansen from Sweden. He lost in the final on the last hole to 20-year-old Nicola Gerdhudson from Switzerland. Hansen as well beat Welsh boys champion Colin Burford in the last four, and also in the last four as well was Per Vernick from Germany, another junior golfer. So lots of juniors doing really well in that. That was the men's side. Women's side, even better, because 17-year-old Nora Sundberg from Sweden, she won the competition, beat reigning European ladies amateur champion Savannah de Bock from Belgium. In fact, Sundberg did really well because she led the stroke play qualifying. Then she won the match play as well. This is a player who played in the Junior Solheim Cup 2 years ago. And actually, this event is a qualifier for the Junior Solheim Cup. And it's also a qualifier for the Junior Ryder Cup. I think you've got the latest standings to come up here. The Junior Ryder Cup takes place in Rome from September the 26th to the 28th. It goes ahead of the main edition, the 44th edition of the Ryder Cup. So just looking at those standings, so the way it works is the 3 girls and 3 boys automatically selected for the team. 12 players selected altogether, so 6 more players will be picked by team captain Stephen Gallagher. Mentioned there Per Vernick there, who moved up to the second place in the standings on the back of his performance in the Spanish Amateur Championship. Sean Keeling as well. He did pretty well actually in the Spanish Amateur. He got knocked out in the third round by the eventual champion. So obviously no disgrace in that. He actually lost on the 19th hole, so really unlucky there. Then and looking at the girls side of there, there's Nora there who obviously won the tournament, up in second place there. Also, it's a bit of a your question about countries to play in. There's a bit of a spot the flag competition as well, of trying to recognise some of the nations there who are in there.
Well, I don't recognise Sean's flag.
No, you're right. It is Ireland.
Is
Believe
it?
it or not? Yes, apparently.
It's an Irish flag I've never seen before.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the Europeans for you. Perhaps they're going with a different one. Perhaps that's the EU flag. Who knows?
Well, I can tell you the rest, but I just can't tell you Sean's. But if you say it's Ireland, I trust you.
I am led to believe. But there you go. So yes, the next qualifying event for the boys and the girls is the French International Boys and Girls Championship. That takes place on Easter weekend from April the 6th to April the 10th. Now, hot news. I know you like your little thing which goes across the bottom saying breaking news, because I have some breaking news for you.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, let me wait for it. Let me just find it, because I wasn't prepared for that, you see. There you go,
breaking news. Right. Now, hot off the press, because literally it's just happened today. The Bernard Darwin Youth Salvo took place at Rye Golf Club. It played over 36 holes yesterday, 36 holes today. The winner, Tommy Bowen from Welshpool Golf Club, shot 79, 68, 66, and then 72 today. I think he's only 20 years old. I know he's under 21. I think he is 20 years old. So another really good young player. Won by one shot from Harry Mallin from Bognor Regis and Alex North from St Andrews Golf Club. So well done to Tommy. Straight up hot off the press there. Shires Junior Golf Tour. This is an event where we covered a little while ago with the Summer Series that the winners played with Charlie Hull in a round of golf. They've just completed the Winter Series. The winners of the three divisions there: Oliver Golby, Evan Fowler, and Caelan Beveridge, gold, silver, and bronze division order winners. So they will go on now to represent the Shires Junior Golf Tour in the Alexis Brown Foundation Day, which took place at Nelcott on Saturday, June the 17th. That's a qualifier for the British Par 3 Championships, where some of the biggest names in the game playing that. Some of the when I say just names in the game, I mean pros and celebrities as well. It's a really good event, that. So yeah. Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the Progress Junior Golf Tour, the Progress Junior Golf website, and putting up the competitions. I've spent a lot of time this week putting up events, all the latest events. There's now, believe it or not, over 1,000 competitions on that website. So if you are looking to play in a golf competition, a junior competition in the UK or Ireland, then go on there. I've updated with the ones from Scotland, Ireland, and also all the way across the UK. I mean, there's still plenty there to put on there, because there are some junior opens which haven't been confirmed yet. There are a few tours which have a few more dates to confirm. But I tell you, there's a heck of a lot of events in there which are going to be taking place, as we well know. The US Masters, generally speaking, first or second week in April is normally the start of the golf season.
Yeah.
Well, actually, even before that,
no.
we've got
Sunnydale Foursomes is the start of the golf season. So.
Well, that's next year. That's the start of next season. Yes. It normally would be, yes, but yeah. So I'll keep it. Look, and message for any club out there: if you have got a junior open, you are going to announce it. Please get in touch. We'll get it on the website. We'll get it pushed, and we'll try and get as many juniors playing in your event as possible. So, right now, just finally, then let's cover something which was mentioned in the last podcast, the England Golf Awards, which took place at the Hilton Manchester, presented by Claire Balding. Lifetime Achievement Award, then Lifetime Service Award, went to David Phillips from Salford Golf Club, who worked for over 36 years to get more young people into the game of golf. So well done to him. Other awards: Participation and Development Coach of the Year went to Mike Dodd. Women and Girls Trailblazer went to the Girl Guiding Project in Hertfordshire. Club of the Year was Seckford. Diversity Inclusion Champion was the Muslim Golf Association. Sustainability Project of the Year was Big Golf Club. Volunteer of the Year, that went jointly to Sonia McCarthy and Kirsty Jolly. Tournament Venue of the Year. I know this is an event whereby you covered a few big events in the last few years. So it went to Sherwood Forest, which hosted the McGregor Trophy, which is, of course, the England Boys Under 16
I
Championship.
have broadcast at Sherwood Forest, actually.
Absolutely. I played it.
Well, yeah.
Yep, badly, I might add. I was all over the place that day. I'll tell you, I'd had a few to drink the night before, shall we say? So yeah, wasn't feeling at my best.
There's a few
Performance of the
hills
year.
that you wouldn't like that. Yeah.
Yes. Performance of the year. There was a few juniors involved in this. Lottie Rhodes, as you mentioned there, she was one of the nominees. It went to Dylan Shaw Radford, who won the England Boys Championship, so well to Dylan. County of the year was Bedfordshire. They've done a lot of work with, in particular, with girls golf. They've combined the men's and ladies section. They've done a lot of work with girls golf. And finally, Young Volunteer of the Award went to Emily Horsted. I think we've got some photos of her presentation. There she is with the award. Like I say, it was presented to her by Claire Boulding, and also Nick Doherty, who we mentioned a little bit earlier off air. He, Sky Sports TV presenter, he lovely tweet saying congratulations to her. So well done to Emily. And I think it's only fair that we actually hear from Emily. We're going to hear from her during the podcast, but let's hear from her talking about the award and what was her reaction when she was first given it. Let's hear from Emily.
I'm very shaky, to be fair, going up there, but it's kind of, very shocked. It's obviously with all the stuff that I do and stuff like that, you do it because you want to make a difference and you want to make it better for other people, not to get recognised for it and that kind of thing. So anybody that got it would have been well deserved. But yeah, it was a bit of a surprise.
Just to explain though, for those who aren't aware of what you have done, just to give us a bit of a background of what you think you might have got the award for then.
So we get the list started.
Yes.
I'm a National Young Ambassador with England Golf and the Golf Foundation. I'm the chairperson for the Girls Leadership Panel for the country with the Golf Foundation. A lot of volunteering at different events, so I helped coach God knows how many hundreds of kids golf in little groups at the Festival of Sport. That was quite cool. I've helped at the BMW PGA, so I did the junior coaching and running little activities for them. I did that over there. I've taught the group coaching sessions at Belton Park. I've helped with them at Milton. At work, so I help coach the ones at there, and also they mentioned it on the night, but there's a charity called Little Miracles near here, that are predominantly for like seriously ill children, and we brought them over to Peterborough Milton for the day and ran a load of golfing activities for them, and they absolutely loved it. So that's a kind of a little trips and drabs of bits that I've done recently.
And also as well, as you did some volunteer work with the Blind Golf Association as well.
Yes, I did. Yeah, we mentioned that on one of the other podcasts when we spoke about that. But yeah, I went and helped and did a load of ball spotting and helped out with the England and Wales blind golf event.
But if there is someone who wants to get involved with volunteering, how do they go about doing that?
Well, there's lots of ways you can kind of go about it. Obviously, I started my kind of volunteering at a club level, so like with the junior coaching sessions on a Saturday and stuff like that. That's where I kind of started, and then it just kind of escalated from there. Obviously, club, there's county stuff that you can go and help with. Just they'll always, like adults or younger people, they're always looking for help and extra pair of eyes and kind of little bits of helping hand here and there. The thing with golf is there's lots of stuff to do. There's kind of, whether it comes to events or just running coaching sessions and stuff like that. So there's always things that you can get involved in, whether that's a club, county, or what level you can get involved at.
So that was Emily Horsted, who won the Young Volunteer of the Year award at England Golf Awards, and well done to Emily. We are going to hear more from Emily, but I think it's during the podcast. But I think it's about time that we bring in our guests, Tom Ford and Zara Wartnaby. That wraps up the news, and then we're going to go on to our podcast, aren't we, Ian?
Yeah, no, about time we got some proper guests on. Just a very quick reminder, everybody, as well, before I do disappear and bring the proper stars of the show in. Your favourite, I just want to know, what is your favourite country to play golf? And please do comment below. We can see the comments. And if you head over to Live Sport Now on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. You watch live golf in 2023, aren't we? Mizuno Next Gen Series, Trilby Tour, ITS 2020 Pro Tour, England Golf, you name it. Live golf, it's free to air. Do tune in and head on over. We want to hear from you. Rightio. Right, I'm going to get the guests in and I'm going to bail out. Enjoy.
Okay, so that's Ian gone. Now we've got the important people on. We've got Tom Ford and Zara Wartnaby. Wartnaby, sorry. I knew I was going to say it wrong, didn't I? So I apologise. Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
Okay, great. Right now, so we are here doing a podcast on Progress Junior Golf. We're going to be talking about giving juniors a voice in committees. So actually, we'll go back to the news section there with Emily and talking about when she got involved with becoming a young ambassador. I'll come to you first, Tom, then, because presumably that was one of the reasons why you got involved with the young ambassadors, to have a voice and give you the opportunity to try and give a junior perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I think when sort of at club level, there's a very select amount of people that sort of hear your voice. Whereas if you become a young ambassador, then you've got a lot more people you can talk to get your voice out there, and a lot more resources that you can access to help get your voice out there, and there's a lot more people that will hear it as a result of that.
Was that the same with yourself, Zara, when you first applied, or the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it gives you more platforms. It definitely projects your voice a lot more. A bigger audience, more people to listen to you. So yeah, you feel like you're making more of a difference, and you're definitely heard a bit more.
We're obviously going to go into a little bit more detail about how you try and get that message across. Let's hear. We're going to hear quite a long interview, or Emily's point of view of the reasons why she got involved and how she gave the first opportunity to actually get her voice across. And obviously that is part of being the young ambassador. So let's hear from Emily of what she did and how she went about it, and when she first gained that opportunity to get her voice heard in golf.
I was a junior captain for 2 years over at Belton Park, so a lot of my stuff was meetings with the junior committee, which was, besides me, adults, which I personally don't feel is the right way of going about it, because it's, especially for like the junior section, juniors, obviously the junior captain is the person that goes forward and does most of the talking with those kind of bits and pieces throughout their year. But I think at a junior committee level, more younger people that have had a lot more experience should probably sit in there as well and have their voices heard. So yeah, I was in that committee for 2 years, and then little dribs and drabs of helping Ellie out now as well, as she's was captain up there. I very recently, with 2 of the other girls from the Young Ambassadors, went over to London, and we did a presentation about girls golf and the barriers and our stories, and getting them heard in front of the board of trustees of the Golf Foundation. So I suppose that's quite a key one, with getting junior voices heard, with the barriers that we face, but also the barriers of just general young people, but especially girls. And it's kind of little things. It was quite nice at the end of that, of just having a bit of chat and back and forth questions with them, of them just asking, so what can we do to make this better? What can we do to make that better? And how can we improve it as a whole? So that was good to see, if they've actually taken what we've said on board. But they love the presentation anyway, but they've actually taken the points that we made and have kind of ran with it, and they've just gone, okay, so we do this, but how can we make this better? And then what can we do to actually help with that? Because at the minute we don't really do. There's bits like that where talking in front of those kind of people, especially at that kind of level, does make quite a bit of difference.
Were there points within that whereby you were making suggestions, and they were saying, "Wow, we hadn't even thought of that," because you were looking at it obviously from a junior point of view, and they were looking at it perhaps from a more adult point of view? Were there points whereby they turned around and said, "Hadn't even considered that"?
Yeah. So there was a couple of points that we made where there was kind of things like, if you start. So I started when I was 10, which in junior terms is kind of later than most people, but it was kind of, we chucked in the points of, so if you start at the age of like kind of 10, and one of the other girls that I was with, she started at the age of 12. And it's kind of, as a collective, we spoke about kind of not really sure where you actually fit in within the section, because it's kind of the people your age are then starting to get their handicaps down and they're getting reasonable players because they've been playing for quite a long time. Or so if you play with people that are a similar ability, they're probably going to be a lot younger. Or if you play with people that are your age, they're probably going to be a lot better. So it's then just kind of, you don't want to play with them because they're so much better and you don't feel like you fit with them. But you don't want to be playing with little 6-year-olds either. So it's kind of, we discussed points like that of kind of the actual group sessions of things that they run, of just how can they make it a little bit more widespread and just making it so everyone feels kind of welcome and that they have got that little place. They were a little bit, yeah, but we kind of do that, but then it's kind of not to that kind of extent of, there are some of those girls that still feel a little bit unsure.
Now, obviously, you were in an environment there whereby you were talking to people who were, let's say, they were more responsive to they asked you to come along to do that presentation. So they were, in theory, they should have been more responsive to what you were saying. They were obviously interested in what you had to say. Let's flip it the other way around. What about an environment whereby you go into, whereby, how do I word this in a nice way? They don't really care what you have to say. So you have to almost persuade them that actually we are important. How difficult is it to try and get that point of view across to someone who is a little less responsive, shall we say?
Yeah, I like your way of putting a little less responsive.
Yes.
The politeness of that. But yeah, it's a lot more difficult if they're not willing to kind of push for that kind of change. I suppose it depends who you've got in the room. If you've got a kind of mixed bag of people who've just gone, oh yeah, that is a good idea, we can kind of run with that a little bit. But it's kind of, you tend to, like with junior committees and stuff like that, you tend to have your junior captain and stuff like that, but then you have like, I'm not talking from experience or anything, but it's kind of, you usually have your organisers that are considerably older and have been in golf for God knows how long, and just loads of other adults. But it's kind of, their perspective of golf and your perspective of golf is two very, very different things. And it's kind of your way of thinking. But I find that like one of the most interesting things in a committee meeting is parents. I can't get them out. No, like, not being horrible, but it's just, you don't like, if they're on the committee and they're open to, like, they're happy to have an open mind and just stick with whatever. But it's kind of, a lot of parents you tend to see just push their own kids' ideas, and that's about it. But it's kind of, yeah, it does get a little bit more difficult when it comes to people not actually wanting that better change or wanting to help. But it's kind of, yeah, that element of persuasion to try and get your point across the line and just try as much as you can.
So how can you get around that? Is it a case of, as a junior, to possibly take someone in who you know is a bit more of an ally with you, perhaps it might be your parent, or so at least it's not just you as a junior trying to put the point of view across. You've got like almost like someone there who can back you up. Would that be helpful? Has that been helpful?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely more helpful, having kind of someone in your corner when you're trying to get those kind of difficult points across. I've seen it where it's a lot kind of easier if you try and make them see it from your angle. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but it's kind of actually obviously making your point, but even perhaps flipping it on its head and just go, okay, so if you were in this position, how would you feel about that? And it's just, they then sit there, think about it for a little bit, and then just go, oh, okay. It's that kind of just possibly flipping it on its head and just making them, trying to see it from your perspective. One of the main, kind of the action bit, I suppose, at the end of our presentation, we wanted them to go away with something as well as just the points that we made. And our action was for them to go back to their own clubs, their own counties, and things like that. People like on the board of trustees go back to their own clubs, counties, wherever, and then see that kind of environment of a golf club from a perspective of a young junior girl. Because it's just kind of, you walk in there for the first time or something, and it's just try and understand it from their perspective, and then just see what kind of a difference it makes to how and what you would think of it.
So that's Emily Horsted talking about her experience as young ambassador and her going into in that environment whereby she has to give her point of view across. So we'll come to Zara first of all then. Zara, have you been in that situation, and when you had to be that first time you ever had to stand in front of a committee, whether it might be the club captain or whatever it happened to be, general manager at a club, what was your feeling then? Do you feel as if you were being listened to?
I felt I had a bit of a mixed response. Some people were more willing than others to listen to what I had to say, the points I had to make, but others were more hostile to sort of my perspective. They sort of didn't want to hear me out. So yeah, you get a varied response.
And how old were you when that first time that you had to do that?
I was actually 15 because I had just become junior captain for my golf club. So I thought that maybe I'd be taken a bit more seriously being an older junior than, the age I was when I started, but you still get mixed responses.
And what about your experience, Tom? What was your first experience? How old were you when you had to be in that environment?
So I've probably had to first stand up in front of my club when I was, say, probably around 15 as well, because 15 is sort of when I started really thinking about ways that I could go around and improve the club. And before that, it's almost a bit scary to go and talk to members. They're there, they're sort of in big groups, and you sort of don't really want to go up to them. But I think once you do go up to them, it's actually all right, and you turn out they are quite friendly.
And obviously, Zara was a junior captain. Were you a junior captain as well in that environment?
Yeah. It was probably a few weeks before my junior captain's day that I had, when I stood up and went, look, I've got a junior captain's day. Could I have donations or raffle prizes or anything like that, really? And yeah, it was scary, but I think, as Zara said, you do get a mixed response. You sort of get the people go, oh, he's 15, doesn't really matter, or oh, actually, that's the future of our club. Let's listen to them.
So let's talk about specifically then as a junior captain then, and if the juniors watching this who might well be a junior captain, might well be their year of being a junior captain. Just give us some of the issues which might crop up in your captaincy year, which you might have to bring up to adults, and just explain. So you mentioned there the example of you have a junior captain's day. So what things might you have to organise with that, and you have to go and then take those type of issues to an adult or to a group of adults?
So obviously funding my junior captain's day was something that I definitely needed, because funding and raffle prizes, and actually a bit of help with ideas, because I'd never done one before. So I sort of went to the committee and past captains and thought, right, what did you do on your captain's day that worked? And they came back to me and were like, we did this, and this, and we felt that went really well.
And obviously you were talking to a captain about how their captain's day went. Well, obviously that's very different from a junior captain's day, isn't it? Is that a similar experience that you had, Zara?
Well, I've been junior captaining for 2 months, so I'm yet to organise some big events yet. But
have you had that conversation yet? Have you had that conversation with about your captain's day, about what you may or may not do?
No, not yet.
Okay, so all right. So you take some advice here from Tom. Then, what do you think you need to do as far as when you go into that meeting, in the sense of, obviously you want to make it your day, you want to make it a really special day for yourself and for the juniors there. Some of the things which you had, Tom. Then, what do you think Zara might need to do when she goes into that first meeting?
So sort of just be like, look, this is my idea, and then don't be like, this is my idea, this is what's happening. Be like, this is my idea, what do you think of it? So then they can be like, well, on my captain's day, I did this. Maybe you can implement that. Or just sort of don't have everything set in stone. Be open to change to the plans that you've already got.
And obviously, we're talking here. Tom has done it as been a junior captain. Zara, are you speaking to the person who was the junior captain last year and trying to get what their ideas was, how it went with them last year as well?
Yeah, I've had a discussion with the old junior captain of my club, giving me a few tips and things on how to sort of navigate the committees and individuals on the committee. Yeah.
And one of the things which cropped up in what Emily said there was something, and it's a question that which I raised, which is inevitable, and that's that you're going to have some people, and you mentioned it as well, Tom. You're going to have some people who are responsive to what you have to say, and some people who aren't responsive. So obviously, you almost have to go in there with two different tacks, in the sense of, if you do get a responsive back, then obviously you know that it's someone who you might be able to work with. How do you deal with them when they're less responsive? So it's almost a case of, you almost have to feel as if you have to listen to them first, or before you can get your message across. I mean, is that something? How difficult was it with you when you first had to do that, Tom?
So I think the way I went around that was, where it is normally a very small minority of people, you get as many people with you as you can, really, and then they look and they go, actually, why am I against this? Like, what is my massive problem with this idea? And then if they have got a problem with the idea, be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. How would you go about changing that? Or what is your idea? Because sometimes the people who aren't as responsive actually have ideas that are useful because of ways that they would do it. So sort of they'd be like, yeah, don't do it that way. Try this. And like, I think, I don't really know how to put it. They're not fully against you all the time. There are a few people who are like, no, I'm not doing that, and those are the people that you can't really change. But the people.
And who are you having this conversation with? Are you having this conversation with the general manager? Are you having this conversation or secretary, or whether that, or is it the club professional? Is it the junior organizer? Who are you having these conversations with?
So my main sort of help when I was talking to people and getting my junior captains day sorted out was the captain, because us as junior captains aren't actually allowed to go to committee meetings. So I think there's sort of only so much we could do in terms of speaking to people within the committee. Sort of, I then went and spoke to my junior organizer, because they can go to the committee meetings, and I was like, can you say this for me? And yeah, and then they sort of fed back to me about the response that they got on that idea and stuff like that. Yeah.
So it's interesting that, I mean, obviously this podcast is not going to be critical of clubs because they have their policies, they do it in different ways. But obviously in that scenario, you were left in a position whereby you couldn't actually physically talk to the people who you need to talk to, or at least not a group of them in one go. So is that something in your scenario, Zara? Do you know whether you were going to be given the opportunity even to talk to all of them at the same time, or are you going to have to do what Tom did and go through an intermediary to actually get to them?
My club has a similar policy. I'm not allowed to sit in on committee meetings or put any of my ideas forward myself. I have to go through different, connections that are actually going to be included in the discussions. So yeah, it sort of limits your voice a bit.
I mean, and I suppose there's a way of looking at this, and play devil's advocate a little bit here, is the fact that has to be the case in some respects, because obviously in those committee meetings, they're probably covering things which, in all honesty, as a junior, you're not particularly interested in a lot of they're talking about, kind of thing. So there's you don't want to be bored out your mind sat, and with me and Ian joked earlier about, you don't want to be sat at a committee meeting listening to all the boring things that they talk about, and then eventually get round to, perhaps they might give you a minute just to talk about the junior section kind of thing. So there are logistical reasons why you wouldn't be invited into those. But at the same time, if there was a club watching this now and they are thinking, well, actually, it is in our best interest to have a junior at some stage be in those one meetings. It might only be in, you might only be in there for 5-10 minutes or whatever, but just to give you the opportunity to be in there. So would that be a message that you could possibly say to your club now? Can you give me the opportunity just to be in the committee meeting for a little period of time, just to try and, you know, so you would hope that it's in everyone's best interest for you to be able to give it that chance. Do you think that's the case? Do you think you'll be able to do that with your club, Zara?
I mean, hopefully, even if it's just like if I'm given 5 minutes at the end of all the as you put it, boring discussion. Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
And what else? Obviously, we talked about your captain's day there. What else, as part of your captaincy year, Tom? Do you also have to organise? Do you get involved with the junior team as well? Is that something as well which you would take some responsibility on during your year?
So I started my year in January, but I knew I was going to be junior captain around the end of October. So I got asked on the day, and I went home and I drew out January to December and what I wanted to accomplish between January and December. And I knew I wanted to have the first ever junior captain's day at my club.
The first ever one?
Yeah, it was the first ever that had ever happened.
Okay, so that's interesting. The fact that no one had even had one there before. So that must have been okay. So that must have been a challenge in the sense of obviously something new to the club.
So yeah, it did take quite a lot because obviously I had to find a day in a diary, a pretty packed diary in December for the year ahead. So I had to sort of speak to committees and speak to competition secretaries and everything and be like, I really, really want to get this done. Can we do it?
And with you, Zara, obviously the diary now we're now into mid-March. Is your diary set for the year, or are you even now trying to organise things for your year?
I actually haven't been told a lot about the calendar for this year, and I don't think there's any discussions for any junior captain's day coming up yet.
Okay, so would you like one? Is that part of your plans for the year?
I mean, yeah, I'd like one.
Okay, so all right, so come back to you then, Tom. Obviously, you were in a position whereby the first ever one. I don't know whether they've ever had one at your club, Sarah, but you were in a position, Tom, whereby you were the first ever one. So how did those discussions go? And so I kind of come back to that point I raised earlier. People responsive, people less responsive, but obviously, presumably, it did go ahead, so it worked. You managed to get those people on board.
So I started off by, on just regular Sundays in my four ball, there'd be people that would go, oh, so what have you got planned for this year, Tom? And I'd be like, well, I really want to get this done. And they'd be like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Or, yeah, I think that could be this format. Or I think you should do it like this. And I'd take in all those ideas and I'd think about them and I'd think like, actually, yeah, that is a good idea. I'll implement that, or I'll implement this format. And so, yeah, I didn't really know what the general census would be when I thought about it in mid-October, and I was like, okay, who knows? Because are all the vets going to be against it? Like, who knows? But it turns out that they were all for it, and it went ahead.
Now, we mentioned obviously to Emily, Zara, is that it might be in your best interests is to go in there with an ally, someone who might be able to be on your side. Do you have that situation whereby there are people on your side who you know that you can go in there with those ideas and they will back you up?
Yeah. As Tom said earlier, that most people are on your side. There's just the odd one that might cause a bit of opposition. But yeah, I do have plenty of allies to go and fight my corner with me. Many of whom are actually parents of other juniors at my club. So they obviously have been speaking to their child about their perspective and their opinions on things that could improve about the golf club. So they know really sort of the best points to raise. So it's relatable to them.
Okay, just a couple of other points we want to touch upon here. This is obviously specifically directed to you, Zara. Are there things, being a girl as well, which you need to bring up to a junior committee and a junior organizer that they may not have thought about, because that junior organizer may be male, and it may well have been a succession of male junior organizers, in the sense of you can bring something whereby they hadn't even considered. Me as someone who organizes junior competitions, I have to regularly talk to girls and parents, and even just this last week, something cropped up this last week whereby me as a male, I wouldn't even have thought of with regard to a girl. Is that something which you've had to bring in, and you have to think about as a girl, as opposed to something which Tom might not have had to deal with?
Well, I think one of the things you'd have to deal with is being like the only girl junior member. That was me for the good first 4 years of being at my golf club. I was the only one, so I'd have lessons and go out in competitions being the only girl there. So I'd say that maybe, I don't know, having lessons targeted specifically at girls, getting more young girls into golf, which I think was a success at my golf club with that Girls Golf Rocks campaign that England Golf did. I was one of the Girls Golf Young Ambassador for that, and we had a good turnout every week. So I'd say continue doing things like that, and that would, help get more young girls into golf and be more inclusive for them.
I think it probably perfectly brings it into my next point as well, and that's during your year, and this will bring in Tom as well on this, because it's very similar. It's the fact that, is junior coaching, is that something which you were particularly keen to work with the club, in the sense of giving a junior perspective on that? Because your coach might know how to coach a junior, but possibly won't know, look at it from a junior point of view, which obviously you can. So for you, Zara, first, sorry.
Oh, me?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Yes,
I was going to say, during your captain of the year, is that something which you're particularly keen to try and give the junior perspective as far as coaching is concerned? Try and give that point of view, as whereby this is how a junior looks at coaching, as opposed to how a pro would look at the coaching.
Yeah, I think coaching from a junior perspective is, you like to do it as a big group, so you have your friends there, you feel like it's more of a fun activity, and also you learn tips, so you be able to hit the ball better. And for a young junior, it's like a visual sort of reward, like you can see yourself improving, and I think that's the main junior perspective on coaching.
And when you in your captaincy, sorry, Tom, was it last year you were the junior captain, or was it a couple of years ago?
Last year, and I've been asked again this year.
Okay, all right. So you get two years of doing it. So
yeah.
So by now you're getting yourself used to doing it. Then, were you involved with trying to do the junior coaching, or trying to implement ideas there?
Yeah. So we had a junior team that entered in a local league, and obviously I wanted to get as many juniors down to the coaching as possible, because then we've got a good team that we can put out into the league. And of course, the only way that we could do that is by having the juniors interested in coaching. Because if they go there and they're so bored and they're just like, oh, I want to go home, like, they're not going to want to get better. They're just going to want to go home. So I think speaking to juniors and being like, actually, if I did this type of competition, would you be interested? Or if I did like the certain types of things that sort of improved really. So like, I think one day last year I said, shall we go out and do 3 clubs and a putter? So they learn how to hit lots of different shots. And that way, and they were all like, oh yeah, let's do that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Now it's interesting as well. Obviously, you saw the podcast that we did a couple of weeks ago, where we talked about different formats and making golf fun and using different formats. There's no right or wrong format, but there are different ways of keeping up the interest, if you like. So with you, Zara, as well, as far as competitions are concerned, is that something which you're looking to promote during your captaincy year, and something whereby you can speak to the club and say, actually, I'd like to do a 2 clubs and a putter, or team events or something like that during your year, to try and keep that interest up within the junior section?
We at my golf club, we have weekly competitions on a Sunday where we block book the golf club, just so juniors can go out. But they are mainly competitions that are aimed at sort of older years in the junior section. But I think more variety and more, I don't know, creative competitions are better for the younger years. Keeps them like entertained a bit more, keeps them more involved in the game and want to come back.
Okay, now we're going to move on to a slightly different subject here. We're going to bring Emily in. Obviously, I spoke to Emily earlier this week, and just going to talk about use of the media, and in particular the use of social media. Let's hear from Emily how she has used that within, as part of being a young ambassador, to try and create more interest in junior golf. Here's what Emily had to say.
Young ambassadors splits into 3 groups. So you've got Heroes Handshake, you've got print media, and then you've got social media. So I'm part of the social media team, and it's quite important with a lot of stuff that we do. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that we post is kind of, it's fun, it's enjoyable and stuff like that. But then it's kind of, a lot of it is kind of what we do and things like that, and trying to get our points across to just people everywhere, essentially. And it's kind of, social media is quite key because it's probably one of the easiest and best ways to interact with younger people. So it's kind of, a lot of clubs and stuff like that have like your junior WhatsApp group and things like that with all your parents and stuff like that. And there's bits like that that are quite key because it's kind of, it's the best way to kind of interact with the juniors and get them involved and get them included and kind of get them playing in all sorts and things like that. But it's an easier option, and it's just a way of communicating better with them than emails and stuff back and forth with their parents and stuff like that, because they actually feel included in the conversation. So there's ways like that that are quite key, especially in a junior section, where there's things like that you can do to make it a little bit easier.
And are there any social media networks which you would steer more towards or more away from, or do they all have different benefits which you can use?
I suppose they all have different benefits that you can use. There's obviously like your age limits and stuff like that on them. There's nothing you can do about that. It's just, it is what it is. Like stuff with WhatsApp, it's with a lot of clubs have a junior WhatsApp group. I know at Woodall we have one. But it's obviously all the juniors are on there, all the parents are on there, and everybody involved. It like everybody's on there, so everyone feels they're each a part of the section, I suppose, and it's kind of a nice way of doing it. Us as ambassadors, we use Instagram and Twitter. Predominantly, a lot of our stuff is on Instagram because for kind of young people, teenagers, I suppose that's probably the best way of getting our point across and getting them to see what we're doing. Twitter, I suppose our use for it is, obviously there's some young people on there, the likes of me and stuff like that, but I just put all of my golf things on there and what I've been doing. But our kind of way of using that is to get across to like clubs and like people that kind of use that for just general things like that. A lot, like most golf clubs are on Twitter in some form or another, whether they post match or not. And it's kind of, that's our best way of getting our points across to them and show them what we're doing. But it's kind of at a club level, I'd say like WhatsApp and things like that's probably the main one because it's just probably the easiest to use of getting everyone together and getting them all involved.
And obviously that's social media. You mentioned as well that you have within the young ambassadors, you have a print media department as well, and it is easy to kind of forget about that but that's, I always find as well, that is useful in some ways. That's where you can tap in the adults because the adults tend to still use that, so therefore you can get a junior message to them whereby it's almost directed straight at them, if you like. It takes the juniors, but at least then they realize that there is a junior section out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, obviously with the Twitter and stuff like that, with that kind of side of it, it's predominantly aimed towards your adults and things like that. But our like print media team especially, obviously most golf clubs will have that little table where you got the stack of like golf magazines on there or something like that. There's not many golf clubs I've been in and not seen that. But yeah, it's kind of, that is predominantly targeting them because it's kind of, although we need to get our message to young people and juniors and show this is what you can achieve, this is what we are doing, we're trying to get your points across. It's also going to the adults to just go, this is what juniors can do, and it's just kind of, our voice kind of needs to be heard.
So that's Emily talking about the use of social media, and as an old guy, that's something whereby you can teach us something, and that's whereby you can go into any meeting with a golf club, a golf county, adults or whatever it is, and actually say to them, look, this is how you communicate with us. And is that something which to come to you first, Tom? Is that something which you have done in the sense of spoke to them and said, I can help you here?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a golf Instagram account, and I use that to sort of promote the club in a way. Sort of, how do I put it? I show what's happening at the club to sort of be like, look, this is happening. Come and support it. Because I don't really know how the club would go about getting that out in another way. Sort of, they could go through their own Instagram account, but ultimately it's all going to lead to different places.
And the beauty about doing that is the fact that you can then turn around to the club, and I'm sure hopefully you've got similar examples here, Zara, whereby you can actually turn around to the club and almost go, there you go. This is how much, just on my be doing it on your behalf, see the results, and you would hope that they would respond to that and go, I see what you mean now. Is that an example where you think you've had that at your club, Zara?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hope to get more opportunities to prove that over this season with me being junior captain. So yeah, hopefully if I show them that, this sort of angle of promotion works, and they continue to do that and use it more.
Do you know how much they actually use at the moment? In other words, are you almost going in there whereby you can actually show them something they haven't even seen before? Which sounds ridiculous for me to say that, but you know what I'm saying in the sense that there are clubs out there who just don't use it.
Yeah. I don't think my golf club has an Instagram account. I think they rely mostly on word of mouth sort of reputation in the area. So yeah, it's definitely an opportunity that they're missing, but hopefully I can show them that that's the way forward.
And also the question I raised with Emily was the fact that, something like Twitter might well have been, or let's go back even further than that. Perhaps Facebook might have been something you used 10 years ago. Twitter might have been something you used 5 years ago. Now it might well be more TikTok or WhatsApp or something else, because trends change, whereby me as an old person, we might still be using the one which no one else is using. Is that something whereby you can go to them and say, actually, what you think is right is actually gone past that, if you sort of mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think as I scroll through sort of, I don't know how to put, modern social medias like Instagram and TikTok, I see more and more golf clubs popping up doing fun videos, and there's like 12,000 likes on it, and it's like, well, why doesn't our club do that? Like, it clearly works. So it's just about getting it right. So obviously you're not going to put every video up and it's going to go viral and get 12 billion views, but like if you just consistently are posting, you only need one video to reach 5 juniors, and that's another 5 juniors at the club.
And in some respects, with what happened with the pandemic, where everyone was kind of like stuck inside, that's where it kind of benefited the golf industry in the sense that, they had to be a little bit more creative in the way that they were doing. Everyone saw the TikTok videos, the golf videos, whereby you were knocking a ball off the side of the screen and then it was popping on someone else's screen and things like that. So being a little bit more creative, I kind of come back to the point whereby you put it back in the golf club or the golf counties, their ballpark, if you like, their room, and say, look, it does work. If I would hope that someone is not stupid in the sense of when you put it in front of them and say this works, they'll listen. But of course, we kind of come back to the point. You have to get ourselves in that room to be able to talk to them. So, right, let's. We are coming towards the end of the podcast here. I'm going to get your final piece of advice, but just one thing which obviously we haven't really gone into too many details here. But you are young ambassadors, so how much do you think that will give you the opportunity to be able to talk to committees, to talk to clubs, to talk to counties, to talk to national bodies? For you, Zara, how much hope do you by being a young ambassador, you'll be given that opportunity now?
I hope I'll be given a lot more opportunities at my golf club. I can show them now the platforms that I have access to, I guess. Show them that my voice can be heard on this sort of level, and that, you know, my voice can be used to promote them and their golf club and the junior section. So I have a lot of hope for the future, especially this season being junior captain.
Yeah, and obviously you're into your second year of doing it, Tom. So but you presumably you echo the same sentiments. In fact, by being now a young ambassador, you would hope that would help on that.
Yeah, it's sort of arrived at the right time. So obviously I was entering my second year as junior captain, so I'm beginning to become familiar with that, and then I can go, look, I've experienced this, and I'm a young ambassador, so sort of that could help with the persuasion side of things. And if, like, how do I put it? If I've got more resources, I can access more people. Or if I'm talking to people who are part of England Golf instead of part of my golf club, they have a wider range of people that they can talk to, and they talk to other people. Next thing you know, it's everywhere, kind of thing.
All right, let's find, and then we're going to get a little bit of advice. Your last piece of advice. We'll go to Emily first of all. Then, what if she was going in front of a committee now? What would her advice be as far as junior golf is concerned? This is what Emily had to say.
Listen to them. It's kind of, there are a lot of the points that we made, and we make kind of quite a lot. They are screamingly obvious points that nobody ever thinks of. It's just kind of probably the best bit of advice I'd give you is just think about it. Think about it from a young person's perspective, because it's kind of, it will change your mindset quite a lot in comparison to how you think about things and how a young person will think about something are two very different things. So yeah, just think about that as well before you do anything.
Okay, Zara, what would your advice be then to your golf club or to any golf club who might be watching this as far as junior golf is concerned?
I'd say just be more open-minded. Don't be afraid of change, and don't be afraid to listen to what younger people have to say.
I'll give you the difficult one then, Tom. What would your advice be to a golf club who's watching this now, who turns around to you, and like I say, I'll play devil's advocate and say, I'm not interested in listening to you. You know, you're only a junior, you're only a 16, 17-year-old. Why should I listen to you? What would your advice be to that golf club there who's watching this?
It's a relatively simple sentence. It just goes, we're what your club's going to look like in 10, 20 years. We are the members that your golf club is going to consist of in the future. And if you don't listen to us, it's going to make us less likely to stay. And next thing you know, you haven't got any members, kind of thing. So just listen to us, because we do have good ideas. We do have modern ideas, as they were. And like, we are what the club's going to look like in the future. So, yeah.
And also, I suppose the key point as well to add to that is the fact that you're also willing, and I think you mentioned it, well, you did mention earlier, is that you're also willing to listen to what their ideas are as well. Because at the end of the day, you will look at it from a junior point of view. They will look at it from an adult and a golf club's point of view, something which you may not have considered when you're thinking about what you would like to happen at your golf club or your golf county or your golf national organisation. So it's not just a one-way thing, is it?
No, definitely not. Like, both sides of the golf club bring good ideas, and if we can just actually talk to each other about them, it makes a really, really strong sort of way of running the club, because you've got the young ideas coming in, and then combine that with the traditional ideas that they have, and you have something really appealing to junior golfers.
Okay, now I'm going to bring Ian back in here, because I'm going to ask him a specific question, because obviously we've talked about putting juniors in front of committees and things like that. Ian, who obviously like myself works in the media industry as well, you've got, you know, if you're working for a committee within a media company, or you know, it might be a newspaper, it might be a magazine, could be, and you've got some juniors who come to you and say, so I'm not going to name any names here, but let's say there's a golf magazine out there, one of the best-selling golf magazines in the country, and they can read it from front page to the back page, and there isn't a single mention of junior golfers in there at all. We've got two juniors on here who've got a voice, who want to get that voice. What should they be saying to a media organisation to say, give us an opportunity, we have got valid things to say?
Yeah, I think it's hard, isn't it? I'm very open-minded towards it, hence the reason, involved in this podcast and having broadcast junior golf. I have an issue with mainstream media at times as well. I know the magazines you're talking about, I'm involved with some of the magazines you talk about. And I also post in a lot of golf groups across social media too. And I'll be honest with you, I've shared this podcast, a junior golf podcast, into a couple of golf groups in Facebook, let's say. One of the comments on the podcast was, stop sharing this crap in our group, we don't care about junior golf. and that's the problem you're going to have. If it's not PGA Tour, then quite frankly, nobody really... It's difficult to break down that barrier, isn't it? It's difficult to break down that mould. And my advice is just to keep doing it, because we're becoming more and more open-minded. It's getting easier and easier and easier to have a voice and to have a say. If you were involved in a golf club 50 years ago and you were a junior, you wouldn't even get through the door. You'd probably have to go through a different entrance or something like that. I was very surprised, actually, Zara, that you said about there's sort of no plan for junior open day or anything at your golf club, and I think it's a real shame. I'm sure that might change. I hope it does change. And I was actually a little bit surprised when, I know we joke about committees being boring and things like that, but it is your golf club, isn't it? It's like your own house. You do want to know what's going on, and you do want to be hearing these things. And I do think the juniors should actually have a voice on that committee if they want it, and they should be allowed to attend as well. It shouldn't just be the boys' club or whatever. So I would just keep doing what you're doing, because it's changing. Things are changing, but it's like turning a bloody great oil tanker. It takes a long time to turn. It takes a long time to change. But we're now in a time and place in an environment where change is a lot more acceptable than it used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago. So you just keep going with it. Look, let's not kid ourselves. You're not going to open up a mainstream golf magazine that you can buy in WH Smith's or the supermarket and have a middle page spread talking about junior golf. It's just not going to happen. You will if said junior golf goes on to win the Masters or the LPGA, LPGA event in 5 years' time. Then you might hear about them, but they've already made it on tour by then. That's just media. They're trying to sell magazines, and unfortunately, junior golf doesn't sell magazines. But you've got to keep plugging away and trying to make the difference, and that's why we exist.
Yes. All right, look, we've been hopefully we've given you the opportunity in the sense of trying to give juniors a voice and trying to explain that the fact that there are committees out there whereby juniors do have a valid voice in those environments, and hopefully, if there's a club there who's watching this, if there's counties watching this, if there's those media organisations, if there's those members who Ian mentioned there who say we don't care about junior golf. Just remember, how old was Tiger Woods when he won the US Masters? How old Lydia Woodcock?
Well, they cared then, didn't they? They cared then. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. How old was Charlie Hill when she made her Solheim Cup debut? These players, every single player probably in the top 50 in the world was a top junior golfer, and if we didn't encourage them at that age, then they would never have become that.
I bet Live Golf will support them.
There we go, on a different subject. Right, look, I really appreciate coming on, Zara, and also Tom, and also Emily Horsted as well, and congratulations again, Emily, on winning the Young Ambassador of the Year. Hopefully, by the way, Kai Williams, who obviously has been on the podcast as well, he won it the previous year, so let's hope that these two might be in with a chance of winning an award next year. You never know with your work. Look, really appreciate coming on. Just to mention as well, the next podcast, the Progress Junior Golf podcast, takes place on March the 29th, and it actually covers something which both Tom and Zara have mentioned as well today, and that's junior coaching. We haven't really done anything on junior coaching during the podcast, but we're going to do a two-parter. We're going to look at junior coaching with younger golfers, so very young golfers, and then also look at slightly older golfers as well, because it is a very different environment teaching the very younger ones and also teaching the slightly older ones as well. So we're going to get some of the young ambassadors on. We're going to get some pros on as well, talking about how they do that as well. That'll come up in a couple of weeks' time. But thanks very much for watching the podcast this evening. Sorry for about the late finish. Still didn't break the record, but we're getting there. So thanks very much, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.